Isagi Yoichi, my dear friend. I'm sorry, but I need to see you fall. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here I am to give you my 15-minute thoughts on how I would break Isagi Yoichi. Not necessarily just in the U20 World Cup arc, but naturally, that is the most current arc going on at the time of recording, so we're going to be talking about it through here, and the many ways I'd like to break Isagi Yoichi down so he can rise out ever stronger. So let's not waste more time. Let me start this timer and hop right into it. So, there are 3 ways in my mind that I want Isagi Yoichi to fail, and they all have to do with internal, external, and a bit of both in a way. The first way I'd want Isagi Yoichi to fail is by overanalyzation. The second way I want Isagi Yoichi to fail is by a weakness in terms of physicality slash individuality. And the third way I want Isagi Yoichi to fail is making up for both of those 2 previous things, yet failing to actively utilize someone perfectly, or in fact, overutilizing them to the point where they break. Now, what do I mean by all of these? First things first, overanalyzing. The one thing that Isagi Yoichi has that makes him the number 1 of bluelock is the fact that that man's brain is fat, even the word, is thick, even the word. I think gargantuan may be the most appropriate, if not even something more bombastic. And that is a good thing. It's one of the things that makes Isagi Yoichi one of the most interesting characters to follow in Blue Lock. Not just because, he's the main character and we're going to have to follow him throughout Blue Lock, but very specifically, it allows us, the reader, and especially a reader like me, who does not know Ball, to get a little bit of insight on Ball, begin to respect Ball, begin to know Ball just a little bit. And notably, it allows Isagi Yoichi's adaptation, his other major factor, to work really well. And notably, his analysis has only been getting better, faster, more efficient, more diabolical. The man saw Nigeria play for maybe a total of 5 minutes and said, yeah, we got this on lock, and proceeded to lead his entire team to 4-0 them while scoring in the last minute. Isagi's analysis is perfect. It's delicious. It's scrumdiddlyumptious. That's why I want it to backfire. And the main way I want it to backfire is overanalyzation. And there are 2 ways I can really see this happening, specifically in the U20 World Cup arc. Overanalyzation could go in the way of, 1, he either takes too long in analyzing. This is a weakness that was pointed out recently by another New General 11 member, Hugo, the idea that ultimately Isagi Yoichi's adaptation is an adaptation process, meaning it still takes time, and that time could be a weakness. That could be one, but honestly, I would love to see Isagi Yoichi overanalyze to the point where the basic things start to trick him, because his overanalysis of the future, based on all the information he has, begins to make him think too much. It's kind of like how in fighting games, I know some people are going to be like, oh no, but in fighting games, there's this idea of overthinking what your opponent's going to do. If you think, oh no, they're about to hit me with a 4-way mix-up, and they run up and standing hit you, you're getting hit in the face. And that's the same thing I want with Isagi Yoichi, especially against some of the geniuses that he's going to be going up against. Think of your Lokis. Think of your, presumably, I'm gonna guess that Bunny's a genius too. Like, maybe he's a talented learner, but I'd be really shocked if he was. So ultimately, I want to see Isagi put in a position where his greatest strength becomes his greatest weakness. Now, obviously, this could easily become a part of the French match, which is why it came to mind in the first place. Hugo pointing out the necessity for time in Isagi's adaptation, how it may be too slow and how it may end up backfiring on him. But if we can compound that idea of it taking too long, but it being almost too effective to the point where something so simple, something so brutish, something so natural could overcome Isagi, it'd be really interesting. It'd be sort of like working around to rebalance Isagi, especially in the narrative of other many genius type characters, especially with your Hioris, your Aikus, your Karasus, all these other characters who are especially focused on the brain aspect, the big brain plays. I would love to see Isagi's massive brain actually backfire, work against him. And I think that can work specifically against the geniuses, but would also be interesting to see it work with other talented learners. Very specifically, Kaiser as a matchup would be interesting to see, because those 2 are compared all the time in terms of their insane knowledge of the game. And I would love to see Kaiser using a mix of his own metavision and his understanding of the game with his own understanding of Isagi and his knowledge of the game in order to get certain things off on Isagi, just because Isagi would be thinking too far ahead. How that would be executed could be as simple as Isagi assuming that someone's going to pass, and then they just don't. Because ultimately, while that would be the most optimal move in the situation, something unoptimal occurs, allowing Isagi to be wrong and for him to break and to make mistakes because he's overanalyzing. The idea that you can think so many steps ahead that you forget about the move right in front of you, missing the forest for the trees, or vice versa, missing the trees for the forest. I forget how that phrase goes, but that's the one way I would like to see Isagi Yoichi fail. His overanalysis actually backfiring and either allowing him to fall for the most simple of plays or the most simple of mistakes, and or him overthinking leading to, just not enough time being allowed for him in the play, which allows him to lose or give up a goal or something like that. The second way that I mentioned, the weakness. Now, I know a lot of people, especially my fellow Isagi fans, will be like, oh Lord, here's another person talking about Isagi needing an individuality / stat boost because he's still kind of buns. And I know. The whole point of Isagi is that he's meant to be a mostly normal dude who's doing mostly normal dude things. He has his innate natural big brain and like super cracked spatial awareness, but like build wise, he's not supposed to be that cracked. But in order for him to become the greatest striker in the world, he's going to need something. And I think he's been able to skirt by this because of how well he works with soccer in a team sport, right? The way that Isagi functions is by being the heart of the team, by being the nucleus, by being that centerpiece of everything. So even if he isn't able to do something physically, he has a Bachira, he has a Chigiri, he has a Hiyori, he has these other things. So when I say I want to see Isagi Yoichi lose either on an individuality / physical aspect, I mean I want someone, maybe, just maybe, hypothetically a Kaiser, who knows, maybe a Bunny, heck, maybe, once again, with the most recent match coming up at the time of recording, maybe a Hugo literally going 1-for-1 with Isagi and reminding him of where he stands. Being like, hey, you clearly got that dog in you, big dog. I respect it, I understand it, I see it. What happens when I put you in a cage? Essentially, just putting Isagi through what Lorenzo was putting Kaiser through in the Ubers match. Being like, hey, you cannot physically outbox me. Now, how are you going to be the heart of your team if your team can't even reach you, big dog? That would be a very interesting thing to see Isagi work around. And obviously, the big thing about this is that Isagi's adaptation doesn't just give him new stats, right? Like, he doesn't just suddenly get faster or get stronger. He just gets new applications of existing abilities and or is able to modify other abilities he's seen. So this physical ability, or the physical inability in this case, would be something that he would have to work on over a longer period. And we've seen him already start to do this with the speed training, with the physical training. He has a very strong core and just build now. On top of that, the ambidextrosity. But I want it highlighted even more. I want Isagi, while obviously being a striker in a team sport, being the heart of the team is very, very important. I want Isagi to go through a loss that teaches him about how necessary it is to maybe pack on a little bit more protein. Maybe he gotta ask Kunigami for some more tips on how to get his gains up or something like that. And very specifically, I want to see Isagi become even more individualist. Not necessarily in the way of like a Paro type, but more so in a way of, ironically enough, a Noel Noah. Very specifically, think of Noel in the Bartra game, where he exclusively just bulldozed through the entire team. So admittedly, not to give him a pass, but bulldozed through an entire team. If Isagi obviously can't physically reach Noel Noah's stats specs, because that's literally impossible biogenetically, I would love to see an Isagi develop all the skills required, physical or otherwise, but probably mostly physical, to be able to pull off a play like that. Because right now he can't. But characters who have lesser builds than Isagi can. We've seen Bachira run through entire teams before. We know that characters who are slightly bigger than Isagi, but not too much bigger, like Yuki Maya, are capable of running through entire teams. I just want a moment where Isagi falls short physically, falls short as an individual in the middle of this team sport, and then has to look to a Rin, has to look to a Bachira, has to look to Yuki Maya and be like, okay, what can I add to my kit? What can I add to myself as an individual to make sure that in a moment like this, where I am being cut off and entirely isolated in my off-the-ball movements, or even when I have the ball, or when I am given an opportunity that could lead to something crazy, what can I do to add to my bag to make sure I can get something juicy, thick, and devious off in a single individual moment? And that's honestly what I think will probably lead to the whole God of Football moment. While I don't know the full context, and no one knows the full context behind Ego's own God of Football moment, presumably considering it still is football, team sport, it probably was massively a team event. But I'm assuming Ego was the nucleus both physically and spiritually in the way, right? He was the centerpiece, and then he was pulling off everything that he could in that moment. Physically, everything felt right. It was the peak performance of what Ego had to offer. I need Isagi Yoichi to either try and reach that organically or be forced to not reach that organically and then work organically and inorganically to reach that point where he can do the things that these monsters can. Will that be something that will happen quickly? No, I don't think it will. And that's why I think ultimately the France match, why did I say France match? What? The France match presumably ending in a loss for Isagi would be a great point to teach him about his lack of individual strength. Or not necessarily teach him, because he knows, but like remind him about his lack of individual strength and have him truly lock in and look into how he can become stronger as Isagi Yoichi, the individual egotist, rather than Isagi Yoichi, the heart, the heroic demon king of Blue Lock. But obviously, there still is one more piece that I need to discuss. It's that final way I'd want to see Isagi Yoichi lose. And admittedly, this is going to sound a little bit hypocritical coming from me, the guy who's like, hey, let's not break Chigiri's leg again. Hey, let's not. Well, to be fair, I've never necessarily been against blinding Yukimiya. I just realized I said Yukimiya earlier. Gosh darn it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Yukimiya fans. I keep messing it up. But with it being the case, I want Isagi Yoichi, whether it be through a desperate need brought on by the previous two, where he, fails physically or is overanalyzing, or maybe a mix of both, I want him to push his teammates so hard that they fail. Now, am I saying I want Yukimiya to go blind? No. Am I saying I want Chigiri to break his leg? No. Can I see both of those happening? Because Kanosho Sensei asking how will we be able to support Isagi depending on how low he goes? Probably. But the main thing I want is for Isagi, in a moment of his own failing as an individual and his understanding of the team sport that is soccer, that is football, and his overanalysis of a situation, kicking into the point where he starts to push too hard. He starts to drag out too much. He goes beyond what his teammates can actually do, but in the moment where he's trying to do it, he doesn't realize it. Think about in the match, think about it in the match against Nigeria, when he specifically said, hey, Aiku, I'm going to do something, you take care of it. Aiku managed to succeed that time. He pulled it off. With Isagi's help, he was able to adapt to Onazi in the moment, and obviously Gagamore was there. They was all able to make it work out to some degree. But what if it didn't? What if Isagi Yoichi wanted more data, more information, more from his team, and they couldn't provide? He pushed them too far. He broke them in some way, shape, or form. I would love to see Isagi, who's finally reached this apex point, get a little bit lost in that sauce. Think, oh, well, I am the leader of Blue Lock, right? Everyone is looking to me. Everyone knows that I can do it. I have to do it. But the only way I can do it is if I get the most out of everyone else, since I myself am not individually strong enough. And thusly, he rips out too much. Maybe he pushes Corona too hard and he strains something. Maybe Chigiri, I don't want Chigiri to break his leg, though. I was about to say I'm going to be a hypocrite and say, break his leg, but I don't want Chigiri to break his leg. So maybe don't break Chigiri's leg, but maybe have Chigiri literally collapse mid-match on the assumption that he is about to break his leg. Like, push him to that point. Push Yukimiya to the point where he's literally going blind, but Isagi's like, keep moving forward, Mudboat. We need to win this match. And here's the thing. In this context, I don't even mind if Japan would still win the match where Isagi is making this mistake. I think if anything, the idea of victory at any cost, coming at the cost of the same pieces that led to victory, would be a fantastic, and I do mean fantastic, lesson for Isagi. Because it would be a lesson of balance. A lesson, well, I was going to say a lesson of understanding, but I suppose that's what this all is, right? A massive point where Isagi Yoichi is forced to look upon what he's becoming, or what he's become, where he is this heart, this core, this nucleus, and he's drawing out too much, all for the sake of his own development. He's drawing out too much, all for the sake of victory. He himself was willing to become nothing more than a cog in a machine to produce goals and to win. Did everyone else truly sign up for that? Does everyone else truly need to bow to his whim? And if they do, what is the consequence of that? Would it be Isagi Yoichi being ousted? Would it be Isagi Yoichi still failing in some way, even with pushing his team so far? I don't know, but I wish to see it. Because Isagi's in a really good spot, right? Ultimately, Isagi is in such a good spot narratively that many others are kind of wondering, man, where's this guy gonna go? but I still see so many visions, despite us being over 300 chapters in the Blue Lock, which is crazy. I still see so much higher that Yoichi can climb. But before he climbs so high, I think he needs to fall down the mountain a little bit. And the beautiful thing about all the 3 ideas I've suggested so far, or just general ways that Isagi could lose, is that they can all work together. This can all happen in like the same game. Like France could just do all 3 of these all at once. That's the crazy thing. He could demand too much out of everything while he's overanalyzing everything, or is unable to perfectly read a situation. And at the same time, he could be falling short as an individual. You could do all this right now. And I think that's why I'm so excited to see what Kaneshiro Sensei has in store for the heroic demon king of Blue Lock, Isagi Yoichi. But, of course, those aren't my thoughts, so please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave Fall of the King in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do want to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. You get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions to the series I happen to review, ad-free variations of all my videos, early ad-free access to all my videos, not only here on just this channel, but also the second channel, That Guy with the Reaction, where I drop 45-minute to 2-hour reaction videos every Saturday at 1 p.m. EST, so don't be afraid to go check that bad boy out. And of course, you get early access to those if you're a patron or member over here. And on top of that, if you are a $3 member or higher, you don't just get your name listed at the end of every single video, such as all patrons and members do. You gain your name listed and read aloud at the end of literally every single video I ever produce. On top of that, I stream every Friday at 8 p.m. EST over on That Guy with the Controller over on Twitch, so please go follow your boy. And on top of that, if you want to drop 5 beans to a short video, or 25 beans to a long video, or any beans at all, any support is always greatly appreciated. The link to my Ko-Fi is in the description down below. But now I want to thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Pura Ura, Enzo, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, Daboy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Rondo Furen, Dino, Hector Gonzalez, Tim Thomas, Kaving, Julian Perez, Akolade Babatunde, Union I, RXN, Nevis97, Logan Guzman, Dead Meme, Karu Deer, Christian Carter, Keon Stewart, Donovan McIntyre, Sino King, Hamza Idrisi, VNA DNA, Edwin Igbinoba, Straw, Athenzi Shear, Antavius Mitchell, Plant Crone, Azo2404, Cray Panama, Super Flame 0, Zapro, Weary Exile, Karina Hernandez, Sheesh King, Window Life, Alex Kenny, Victor Jacobs, Todd, Dre, Axis XE, The Practical One, Aswin Hedi Prasetya, Jayam Day, Kaidai, Devil Pesiet, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Funny Dude, and Jagoda. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Lane or tier patrons: A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Dreadzone, Midnight Lord 21, and CJ. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Inc tier members: King RTX and Triple the Fourth Shrimp 06, along with Zom. I'd like to give another thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Joaquin Munoz and Joaquin Munoz.